Okay. So like you were saying, it could be advantageous to push them towards the culture they were moving into, but disadvantageous if you put them at a disconnect with you and your immediate family. So that could cause problems also. That's true. So on a lighter note, is there, one of the girls mentioned that her family always eats the same breakfast food, and even though she lives by herself, she still eats, I believe it was arepas, that she eats every morning, and she's like off if she doesn't eat them. So if you were to immigrate, do you know, is there an American or other culture food that you think is really important to your family, or something that you really enjoy doing that would be difficult to take with you, or that you would miss the most if it was not easily accessible to you?
Personally, I don't think so.
Really? If you just roll with it, you'd be like, it'll be fine.
It depends where I'm going. I mean, like, I feel like a lot of places, like, I don't know, I'm not obsessed with, like, fast food and stuff.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of places have those chains anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everywhere has ice cream.
You have a point.
And, like, I feel like there's nothing, like that girl said, like, she has the same thing every morning. Like, I feel like there's nothing like that for me, really.
Really? Mm-hmm.
I think. I know this is super weird, but growing up in Florida, I would miss, it's not really food, but I would miss Publix and their salads and their cakes.
Publix
I'm
is
sorry,
good.
but like, everyone complains about missing it when they leave, like, because Publix is only in like Florida and parts of Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even imagine my life without Publix, which is super odd.
I get
Not
that.
really
My
food,
life
but like
started without Publix. I thought Stop and Shop was great. And then I came here, and now I go home, and I'm literally like, what the heck? Like, where's all the good food?
Right?
And I feel also whenever I go to other grocery stores, I'm like, it smells weird in here.
Right?
You know? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
There's a lot of weird
Super
stuff that
odd.
goes into what makes us feel at home.
Yeah.
weird stuff goes into that, man. Okay.
No, I think, I don't know, at least like fast food wise, Chick-fil-A is probably like a go-to. And then they probably have it at other places, but maybe like not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Me too, because like I'm from Atlanta, so that
Oh,
always
so
was like
that's
my favorite, and like I know like my parents and my brother love it too. So I feel like whenever I went out of town or anything, there was one right by the airport. So on my way home, I would always, that's the first place I ate when I got home every time, and I was like, I'm home.
That's cool. Okay, so the girl from Venezuela mentioned that her family all got to stay together, but they all moved into a Venezuelan style apartment where it was still like even the same view that they could see from their home in Venezuela. Do you think that if you were given the opportunity and relocated to another country, that you would try to put your family in more or less the same situation as what you left in? So for example, if you moved from a more rural town, would you be more apt to move to what is also a rural town in the country that you immigrated to? Or would you just be all in for like full-blown changes of every capacity, so you don't even care? If you were given the opportunity, would you do that, or would you just go for totally different?
I think it would depend if I was bringing like children or like my entire family. 'Cause I think I myself would be like, when I'm moving someplace new, I want to experience something new, but maybe it would make it easier on my kids if we move somewhere that's similar to what they're used to, kind of a deal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I feel like it would be less about like similar versus different, more like if I was on the beach, I'd want to stay on the beach. If I wasn't on the beach, I'd still want to be on the beach after. Like, whatever's just like nicer if I have the option, you know?
Right. Cool. You want to take the general?
Sure, or Lindsay, do you want to
Sure.
do that?
Okay. How is your relationship with your family similar or different to those portrayed in the video?
I would say it's kind of different just because like they're close to like all of like those generations, and I like don't even know a lot of my uncles and cousins on my dad's side of the family because he's like 7. He's like the youngest out of all his kids, and they live like everywhere across the state, so it's like I don't know everyone, but they all lived together. They know everyone. They're so close, but I'm just close to like my immediate family kind of a deal.
I feel like for me, my mom's side is Portuguese and my dad's side is everything, I guess. I don't know. I feel like the Portuguese side is more similar. Like, it's like everyone's so close. And I think it's every like 4 years we have a giant family reunion. It's just like a bunch of people kissing your cheeks. And I feel like that's just kind of like more of that culture. And then with my dad's family, I feel like it's more like there were probably people I don't know that. Does anyone know them? Maybe. Like that we're related, I guess. But like on my mom's side, we wear like shirts, and it's like you have like a team of like which person you came from. So yeah, so we're like Tony's team because like my like great grandfather is Tony. I don't even know how it works really, but like so then everyone knows like who you came from at this like family reunion of like 200 plus people.
That's pretty awesome.
That's actually really cool.
It's pretty cool.
That is kind of ingenious. You don't get lost, do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, you don't.
Did you learn something new from the video that you didn't know before?
It could be anything. It just could be like some sort of detail you hadn't noticed. It doesn't have to be like life
I
changing.
didn't know they ate octopus in Colombia. I mean, I did.
That's
know that.
immediately
It's
what I
scary
thought when they
example.
said gorilla. I was like, the man got kidnapped by a gorilla. And then they continued on, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. I got really confused. I was like, what?
Honestly, I'm still not totally sure what that is. I'm
Like why he got assassinated or?
no, that guy
gorilla
was like
thing.
kidnapped. I know guerrilla warfare.
That's what.
Yeah.
That's my
So I'm
second-
assuming it's
I
like
think
rebels
it's
that
probably
took him.
about-
Yeah.
I
That's
guess
really
it
weird.
also just like kind of opening your eyes to like what some kids that you just sit in class next to have gone through that you have no idea.
Yeah.
That girl had her father taken away and deported. Like that's mind blowing. Something I've definitely never had to live through and like probably never will. Dad's a citizen here, so I don't think they can take him, but
I don't know,
What?
this,
Oh, sorry. You go.
this isn't really like learning anything, but I thought it was interesting to contrast, like just like the differences between like even similar stories, especially with the guy at the end. When they asked him like the living situation question, he talked about how like when his family immigrated to the U.S., his mom actually stopped working and like stayed home, and that was a contrast with I think a few of the other kids whose parents like had to work more. So.
Yeah, I just found that weird because I'm like, well, I guess it's because like when he was talking about where he came from, they had like maids, and he was
Yeah,
talking about
sometimes-
estates. Like they
Yeah.
seemed like they came from some place that was wealthy and they could afford to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the first girl, I think, she said that she had a lot more freedom before she came to the U.S. And I think it's the last guy
He said
who said he had a lot less freedom, which I was like, that's interesting. All depends on like where you're coming from, I guess.
Probably your social status too. If they're like
Yeah.
kidnapping his grandfather for ransom, he was probably a somebody.
Yeah.
I was gonna let him like.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What is something that resonated with you from the video and why?
I'd probably say just kind of what I said earlier about like not knowing what people go through and like just kind of seeing that like for real as a UF student. I feel like it's just so much like closer to home instead of like some person somewhere this happened to. It's like, oh, this is like a literal girl that like went to school here and had her father taken from her. Like that's so terrible.
Yeah. It's good to think about that stuff while you're here and have the opportunity, because like how many times in your life could you really sit next to someone like that in your own
Yes.
little circle, but like here, and especially with the type of school we go to, that really is like heaven knows what the person next to you like lives or
Yeah.
has lived, you know. That's a good point.
Yeah. And it's also really, I don't know, it was really cool just how much like love like these parents have for their kids, especially the ones where they had to get out of like a dangerous situation and how they had to like give up a lot of things, and like work at Wendy's and like
Yeah.
both of them, and they probably like not other like career options, but it's not like it's not. It's
So
not
they
like
probably
your
didn't
ideal,
work at Wendy's
you
at
know,
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But they
Yeah.
did that so that their kids could like go to college and get an education. So yeah, I thought that was really nice.
I definitely agree with all that about how like, cause like you never think about like how much love a parent has for their kid until you hear situations about like that. Like they risk their lives to bring their families over here. I think that's kind of crazy.
Did any of the personal accounts resonate with you more than the others, and like why?
You can pick a favorite if you want to, just one that you really felt was the most, like, packed the most punch, for whatever the reason. It doesn't have to be personal significance, but just the one that you felt really brought the most light to, like, the topic in general, out of the 5 of them.
I don't know, really. I think they, like, the one that stood out for me the most was, like, the one who was undocumented, because it's, like, I don't know if it stands out the most, but when I typically think of immigrants, that's what I immediately go to is undocumented. I don't think about the other ones who all came here legally. Like, it just doesn't, like, occur to me, but she's, like, the one that I think of, and I don't know, I kind of feel for her.
Just like all the fears that come with it.
Right.
Hearing like a first-hand account about that and stuff.
It's not something you get to hear that often, right? Because you always think they're, like, hiding in the bushes and stuff. Because, like, police are coming for you, you know?
I know,
Yeah.
it definitely probably isn't something you would talk about openly to a
Right.
stranger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is also must be so like isolating.
Right, you can't tell anybody your life, your friends. Like,
Yeah.
God forbid, the more people know, the worse it is
Exactly.
for you.
Especially so many people like are judgmental and like
Right.
are like against undocumented immigrants or whatever, and like you don't want people like judging you and not liking you just because like this.
You don't have a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that is, I believe we made our time, and that's all the questions that we have for you. Thank you